The sun hung low over the primordial valley, painting the sky in shades of amber and crimson. In this ancient world where every breath was a battle and every shadow held death, humanity clung to existence by the thinnest of threads. The great beasts ruled this land, creatures of fang and claw that had dominated for eons unchallenged. But something was changing, something that would reshape the very fabric of this savage world. Cain crouched behind a cluster of volcanic rocks, his chest heaving as he watched the massive form prowling through the tall grass below. His dark eyes, sharp as flint, tracked every movement of the creature that had haunted his nightmares for 3 full moons. The beast was enormous, easily twice the height of a man at the shoulder, with fangs as long as forearms that curved like ivory scythes. Its tawny fur rippled over mountains of muscle as it moved with a grace that belied its terrible size. Rava. The name had spread like wildfire through the scattered tribes. The Eternal Hunter. The Sunset Terror. This saber-toothed beast had carved a path of devastation across the valley, claiming territory that humans had desperately needed for survival. 17 members of Cain's tribe had fallen to those fangs, 17 faces that would never again gather around the communal fire. But Cain had learned something that the great predators had not yet grasped. Humans were different. They were weak individually, yes. Their claws were pathetic, their fangs laughable, their hides soft and vulnerable. But they possessed something that no beast could match. The ability to think, to plan, to unite against a common threat. 3 months ago, Cain had been just another hunter, struggling to keep his small tribe alive in a world designed to devour them. Then Rava had come, scattering them like leaves before a storm. In that moment of terror and loss, as Cain had watched his people flee in every direction, something had crystallized in his mind. A realization that would change everything. They had been thinking too small. One tribe could not stand against the apex predators. But what if tribes united? What if humanity stopped seeing each other as competitors for scarce resources and instead recognized their common enemy? The journey had been brutal. Cain had traveled for weeks, moving from one scattered encampment to another, speaking to tribal leaders who initially met him with suspicion and spears. He bore scars from those encounters, a jagged line across his ribs where a chief's weapon had found flesh, a healed gash on his forearm from a territorial dispute. But Cain had persisted, speaking words that had never been spoken before, painting a vision that had never been imagined. He told them of a world where humans did not cower in caves, where their children could play without fear of being snatched by predators, where they could claim the richest hunting grounds not through luck but through strength, united strength. One by one, the tribes had listened. The shaman of the river people, an ancient woman whose eyes held the wisdom of countless seasons, had been the first to see the truth in Cain's words. She had pledged her 40 warriors to his cause. Then came the mountain dwellers, then the cliff runners, then more. Within 2 moons, Cain had assembled something unprecedented, a coalition of 150 humans, armed with stone-tipped spears, wooden clubs, and something far more dangerous, purpose. Now as Cain watched Rava prowl below, he felt the presence of his united force hidden in the rocks and brush around the valley. They had tracked the great beast for days, learning its patterns, understanding its territory. This was the place it returned to feed, where it felt safe and dominant. Today, that would change. Cain raised his hand, a signal agreed upon by all the tribes. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. Then he brought his hand down in a sharp chopping motion. The valley erupted with noise. From every direction, humans emerged, screaming, beating drums made from hollowed logs, waving torches that sent smoke and flame into the air. The coordinated chaos was designed to disorient, to frighten, to push the beast toward the carefully prepared killing ground. Rava's head snapped up, confusion and rage warring in its ancient eyes. No prey had ever behaved this way. The beast's instinct screamed at it to charge, to kill, to dominate as it always had. It chose the nearest group of humans and launched itself forward with terrifying speed. But the humans scattered like water, flowing around the attack rather than meeting it head-on. Spears jabbed from the sides, drawing blood but avoiding the crushing counterattack. More humans pressed in from behind, harrying the beast, never giving it a moment to focus on a single target. This was not hunting as Rava understood it. This was something new, something terrible. The battle raged for hours. 3 humans fell to those terrible fangs. their sacrifice buying time for others to strike. 5 more were wounded by slashing claws. But slowly, inexorably, the great beast was being driven toward the concealed pit that the tribes had spent days preparing. A deep cavity lined with sharpened stakes, covered with branches and dirt. Cain himself led the final charge, running directly at Rava with his spear raised high, screaming a challenge that came from somewhere deep in his human soul. The beast, exhausted and bleeding from dozens of wounds, lunged at this single audacious prey. The ground gave way beneath Rava's massive weight. The concealed pit swallowed the beast whole, and the sound of its final roar shook the valley walls. When Cain and the others peered down into the trap, they saw the once mighty predator impaled upon their prepared stakes, its lifeblood staining the earth. Silence fell over the assembled tribes. Then slowly a sound began to build, a cheer, a roar of triumph that echoed across the primordial landscape. Humans embracing, crying, celebrating not just a kill but a transformation. That night, as fires burned across the valley and the tribes feasted together, Cain stood apart, looking out over the land. He knew this was only the beginning. There would be other beasts, other challenges, other wars against a world that wanted humanity erased. But something fundamental had shifted. Humans had discovered their true weapon, each other. They had learned that united they could face any threat. The great predators still ruled the earth, but their reign was no longer absolute. In the flickering firelight, Cain carved a symbol into a piece of bone, a circle of human figures standing together around the fallen form of a great beast. Future generations would find such carvings and wonder at their meaning. They depicted the moment humanity stopped being prey and began its long march toward dominion over all the earth.